الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Alhamdulillah, continuing along with the book that we've started, Ta'adim al-Ilm, the making knowledge great in your heart or respecting knowledge. We said last week the main purpose of this book is basically to teach us how to respect and achieve knowledge. And the Imam Shaykh Salih al-Usaymi, Hafidhahullah, he was explaining to us that to attain proper knowledge, one must have respect of it to start with. If you don't hold knowledge great in your heart, if you don't respect knowledge, if you don't know the purpose of why we seek knowledge, then according to him, you cannot really attain knowledge. True knowledge is not just memorizing and reading and putting all these proofs together. But true knowledge is actually something that's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's a way of opening the door to His servants and giving them an understanding of the deen and the implementation of the deen, putting the knowledge into action, right? So somebody might memorize 1,000 books, but he doesn't really have knowledge because his heart is corrupted. The shaitan, comes from many narrations. He was one of the most knowledgeable of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. And he was also considered one of the ones that worshipped Allah the most. However, when he came to practicing that knowledge and putting that knowledge into implementation, he disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it was of no benefit to him. Actually, the knowledge was more of a punishment for him, because if you truly know Allah and you know the strength and the power and the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you sin against Him anyways, that means your knowledge is not complete, your knowledge is not correct. It's actually a proof against you. And he was saying, the Imam, we summarized last week, that he made this book into a small book, summarized into 20 small chapters, in order to make it easy for the student to memorize or understand. Right? And he said this is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the anbiya and the ulama, the scholars. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent down the Quran in a limited amount of pages. Any one of us can finish the Quran easily in 1 month. Right? Or the ahadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the sayings of the Prophet, they're without repetition, they're not that many. They can fit in a limited amount of volumes. And the Imam was saying that if Allah chose, He could have sent down volumes and volumes upon volumes of books to be the Quran, but He chose to keep it brief and summarized to give us the benefit of understanding. And this is the way the ulama, they teach the knowledge. You start with the smaller text, then you progress to the medium-sized text, then you go to the larger text. And it's not the point to increase, the amount of knowledge you take in. It does no benefit. It's better to have a small amount of knowledge and understand it and memorize it and implement it than to have read all these books and have all this knowledge but you forget it all, right? For example, if we learn this text, it's 20 small chapters, and we implement it and we understand it greatly, it's better than if you read 20 volumes of a book and you forget all of it. That's the problem in modern times. Some people, we have all this access to books and technology, but it's so much, it's like information overload. So you might read, hundreds of books, and at the end of the day, if somebody asks you a basic question in fiqh or aqidah or nahu, for example, the person can't answer it. And if you just learn one book, a simple book, and you memorize it or you understand it greatly, right? And then somebody comes and asks you can answer the question. So that's the difference between building knowledge upon a strong foundation and building knowledge upon a weak foundation. So the Imam, he's showing us ways to build a strong foundation. And the essence of knowledge is respecting it. If you can't respect knowledge, you can't hold knowledge great, respecting Allah's ayats, the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, then your foundation is weak to start with and you're not going to attain knowledge. So this is the point that Imam wrote the book, and that's what we went over last week. This week, the first chapter, in the 20 ways of helping us to attain knowledge and respect knowledge and hold knowledge great in our hearts, he says, is تطهير وعاء العلم, the purification of the container of knowledge. Wi'a is a container. Al-ilm, we all understand, is knowledge. So he's saying the first and most important point in attaining knowledge is purifying the container. وهو القلب. وبحسب طهارة القلب يدخله العلم. وإذا ازدادت طهارته ازدادت قابليته للعلم. So he says that this container is the heart. And in accordance to how pure this container, this heart is how much knowledge will be able to enter into it. And the more your heart is clean, and the more your heart is pure, then the more it will have the ability to attain and accept knowledge. فَمَنْ أَرَادَ حِيَازَةُ الْعِلْمِ فَلْيُزَيِّنْ بَاطِنَهُ وَيُطَهِّرْ قَلْبَهُ مِنْ نَجَاسَتِهِ فَالْعِلْمُ جَوْهَرٌ لَطِيفٌ لَا يُصْلِحُ إِلَّا لِلْقَلْبِ نَظِيفٌ. He says that whoever wants to contain and understand and comprehend and gain knowledge, then he must purify and cleanse his inward dimensions. Cleanse the soul, cleanse the heart. وَيُطَهِّرْ قَلْبُهُ مِنَ النَّجَاسَةِ. And he cleans it from all the filth, all the disgusting diseases and sicknesses of the heart. He takes it away. That way the heart, the container, is able to accept knowledge. And the more you purify this container, the more it will accept knowledge. And the ilm, he's calling it jawharun latif, like a beautiful, gentle, delicate jewel, right? How do you keep jewelry, like very fine, expensive jewelry? How do you take care of it? How do you keep it? You're keen to keep it like in a safe place, in a clean place. You don't throw like $1 million diamond into like the trash can, right? To corrupt it and to make it ugly. You put it in a nice container or safe or container that's going to keep it beautiful and pure and clean, to keep its value. And that's like ilm. He's calling it like a jewel, to take care of it and to put it in the proper container. And he says, you make it your inward dimensions beautiful. And he said, لا يصلح إلا للقلب نظيف. We studied nadif today, earlier, remember? So al-qalb nadif is the clean or pure heart. If you have a clean and pure heart, that's the only thing that's going to accept proper knowledge. وطهارة القلب ترجع إلى أصلين عظيمين. And the purification of the heart goes back to two main principles or foundations. أحدهما طهارته من نجاسة الشبهات. The first pillar is the purification of the heart from the doubtful matters, shubahat. We're going to explain it more as we go on, but just get that now. Shubahat is like the doubtful matters, and it encompasses shirk and kufr and nifaq and hypocrisy and having doubt upon the religion and these type of things that corrupt the heart from the mental and spiritual dimensions. And the second point, وَالْآخِرْ طَحَارَتُهُ مِنْ نَجَاسَةِ الشَّهَوَاتِ. Purifying the heart from the corruptedness or the dirtiness of shahawat, the lower desires. So these are the two ways to achieve the purification of the heart. Purifying it from the shahawat and the shubuhat. وَإِذَا كُنْتَ تَسْتَحِي مِنْ نَظْرِ الْمَخْلُوقِ مِثْلُكَ إِلَى وَسْخِ ثَوْبِكَ فَاسْتَحِي مِنْ نَظْرِ اللَّهِ إِلَى قَلْبِكَ وَفِيهِ إِحْنُ وَبَلَايَا وَذُنُوبُ وَخَطَايَا. He said, if you feel shame for the people, the created people like yourselves, creation, if you feel shame in front of them to look at your dirty clothes, right? You would, and hardly any of us would ever walk out of our house with dirty clothes. We try to wash our clothes first, right? Because you're embarrassed in front of other people to walk out with dirty clothes, right? So the Imam is saying, if you're shy or embarrassed or shamed to go out of your house with dirty clothes, you should be more ashamed to have a dirty heart in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with all the filth of sins and hypocrisy and disbelief. You should be more shameful in front of Allah than you are in front of the creation. Because that heart, that heart is a gift from Allah to you, right? That's your soul. That's your liveliness. And you should try your best to keep it clean and white and free from sinfulness and the lower desires and the doubts. ففي صحيح مسلم عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الله لا ينظر إلى صوركم وأموالكم ولكن ينظر إلى قلوبكم وأعمالكم. In authentic narration by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah does not look at your pictures, your appearances, or your wealth, your money, but He looks at your hearts, and He looks at your actions, right? So it doesn't matter how you look, what color of skin you are, what color of skin you have, how much money you have, but it matters what's in here, what's in your heart, right? It matters what your deeds are. Are you doing good deeds? Are you staying away from evil deeds? The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, some of them may not have done as much ibadat as the other generations after them, right? But their hearts were pure, and that's why they are the best of generations. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said that, if you spend the mountain of Uhud in gold, you would not equal even a handful of what Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu spent. Because Abu Bakr was so sincere when he did an action. Right? Their hearts were pure. In another authentic hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. He said, verily there is a morsel of flesh in the body. If it is made wholesome or pure, the whole body will be made wholesome and pure and clean and good. But if it is corrupted, then the whole body will be corrupted. ألا وهي القلب. Verily it is the heart. Right? So the heart is what determines the actions. You can do all the actions in the world that appear to be good, but if your heart is corrupt and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, the actions will not be accepted. And likewise, you can do a small action, but you do it with such purity of intention and such cleanness of heart that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts from you and makes it a great, great reward for you on the Day of Judgment from His mercy. So purifying the heart is one of the main goals in achieving knowledge, because He's saying this is the container of knowledge, this is the true container of knowledge. And He says the light of knowledge, you should be careful to distinguish or extinguish it with the sins, right? Like we've mentioned in previous lessons, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he's appeared to have seen, they say, the calf of a woman that was walking in the street, and it kind of messed with his memory. He had a photographic memory, right? So the story says that he saw by accident like a woman's calf, that was attractive obviously, and it kind of like shook him, his memory. And he had a photographic memory. So that's when the famous poem came about. He said, شَكَوْتُ إِلَى وَكِيعِ سُوءَ حِفْدِي فَأَرْشَدَنِي إِلَى تَرْكِ الْمَعَاصِي وَقَالَ لِي أَعْلَمْ بِأَنَّ الْعِلْمَ نُورٌ وَنُورُ اللَّهِ لَا يُعْتِي الْعَاصِي. He said that I complained to my Shaykh, Imam Waki', one of the great scholars of hadith and one of the teachers of Imam Shafi'i. I complained to him that I'm having problems with my memory. So he said to me to leave the sinfulness. أرشدني إلى ترك المعاصي. Leave the sins alone, stay away from sins. وقال لي, and he told me, أعلم بأن العلم نور. Then know that knowledge is light, and the light of Allah is not given to the sinful one. Right? So this container that we have in our hearts is to be clean and cleansed and protected, so the light of knowledge can enter into it. The more clean your heart is, the more knowledge you can get. The more you can stay away from sins, the more you make repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more ibadah you do, the more your heart will be clean, and the more Allah will give you knowledge. Allah says, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهُ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Fear Allah, have taqwa of Allah, protect yourself from the sins, and Allah will give you knowledge. Allah will teach you from places you do not even expect. And He's saying, like, with the sinfulness, it takes away from the light of knowledge. Like, you can see also, subhanAllah, sometimes that sin can have a physical presence upon a person. The more a person indulges in sin, the more a person stays away from Allah, from the good deeds, the more he accompanies himself with bad people or bad companionship, he has like kind of a darkness upon him. Right? And then the opposite is true. The more you hang out with good people, the more you do ibadat, worship, the more good deeds you do, the more you stay away from sins, it's like you have a light upon you. That's why the ulama, the true ulama, when you see them, it's like they have light shining from them. Almost like a physical light. And this is from the gift of knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he explains also in the book the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet ﷺ, يَا أَيُّهَا الْمُزَّمِّلُ قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ وَرُجَزَ فَهْجُرْ. He's saying that the first command, like the Prophet was told, stand up, the one who was, covered, get up, and call to your Lord, make your Lord great. So warn the people, give da'wah. فَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ, make Allah great in your heart. وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ, your clothing, purify it, cleanse it. And thiyab in the Arabic language also means your actions. So not only like your physical, thiyab to be clean, but your actions. ثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ, purify your actions. What does that mean? I'm asking you to make sure you guys are listening and paying attention, inshallah. Sincerity, or making your heart pure for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so your actions can be accepted, right?
What about people who don't know their hearts are not clean?
We will get to that, inshallah. So, وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ وَرُجَزَ فَهْجُرْ. What's rijis? Rijis is the opposite of tahara. So, when you go to salah, what are the requirements for salah? The shurut, like from the basic requirements that have to do with purification. Anybody know? These are the basics of your deen now. So, for your salah to be accepted, there are certain shurut. Wudu, okay. Cleanliness of what?
Or your place you pray, your clothes.
Yes. So the place that you pray and the clothing should in general be clean. Cleanliness, right? And also, you have tawheed. You have to have cleanliness of the heart, right? So if the place is clean and your clothes are clean and you worship a stone, then it's not clean. Your heart's not clean. That's religious. So Allah is saying in these ayat, رَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ, make your Lord great in your heart. Sanctify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. That's what we say. When you say Allahu Akbar in Salah, Allah is greater than everything else. Everything else should go out the window when you come to Salah. Right? وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ, purify your actions, purify your intentions. You're coming to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Check yourself. Right? Make sure you're doing it for the right cause. وَرُجْزَ فَهْجُرْ, stay away from the impurities, physical impurities and spiritual impurities. You have people that want to bring you down, they want to take you out to the bad places, they want to have you do the haram, stay away from them. Right? Those things that you look at that can corrupt your heart, stay away from it. وَرُجْزَ فَهْجُرْ. So this is the meaning of basically purifying the heart, cleansing the heart, cleansing the container of knowledge. And in the hadith we mentioned how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His importance that He gives to your heart and your actions, more than the appearance and the wealth. That's why we find on a regular people that are apparently, superstars, fashion stars, icons, singers, like some of the richest of the people, whatever, they're suffering from depression and misery, and some are committing suicide, right? Because that apparent stuff doesn't really cleanse the heart, it doesn't give the heart contentness. True iman, true belief in Allah, even if you're one of the most miserable in the dunya in terms of not having wealth or having, a hard life, but you're content in your heart, so you're always really happy and pleased with whatever Allah gives you. So that's the difference of having a clean heart and a corrupted heart. And then he goes on to talk about how, the more clean the heart is, the more Allah will give you the knowledge, and the more Allah will give you understanding of the Quran. That's why the ulama, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. The true scholars that fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're the ones that truly fear Allah. They're given the gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of light in the Furqan, right? وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ فُرْقَانًا. Whoever fears Allah, Allah will give him the Furqan. And taqwa, we said before, it's not just fear, but it's like fear with love and an understanding that you're basically fearing displeasing Allah. You're fearing to put Allah's punishment upon you. You're fearing to fall into the haram because it might lead to the hellfire, Right? This is taqwa. It's like putting a shield between you and what Allah hates. A shield between you and the hellfire. A shield between you and those things that take you away from Allah. So if you have this taqwa, this purity of heart, this God consciousness, understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will give you knowledge. He will give you furqan. He will give you wealth. He will give you contentness. If you read in the ayat, there's over 90 places mentioned about taqwa in the Quran. Right? And look at the fruits of taqwa. This is all with having a pure heart. So whoever wants to عدم العلم, to hold the knowledge respectfully and sanctify it and make it great and truly make it something that you hold dear, then you have to start with the heart. Purifying this container. وعاء العلم القلب. The container of the knowledge is the heart. The more your heart is pure, the more knowledge you will get, and the more room you will have to learn new things and acquire it and keep it, right? That's why, subhanAllah, some of the Salaf, when you read their works, they lived such short time, but they had such barakah. Like, they've written more works in their lifespan, their short lifespan, than some scholars that, modern times have lived double their lifespan and not done equal to them. Imam al-Nawawi, rahimahullah, he lived to only the age of 41, early 40s, right? He wrote some of the greatest works in hadith, some of the greatest works in fiqh, some of the greatest explanation of the ayat of the Quran. Arba'in Nawawiyya, which inshallah we will study after this book, the 40 hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, is one of the most popular books in the world. Riyadh al-Salihin, almost every Muslim home in the world has Riyadh al-Salihin. Sharh al-Muslim, the explanation of Muslim, all the scholars refer to for understanding the hadith. His book, Al-Majmu' was one of the greatest works of fiqh ever written. These are all from the fruits of taqwa. It's known that when he was a little boy, from the young age, some of his friends wanted to come to get him to play with them, and he would start crying basically, because he didn't want to be pulled away from studying, to remembering the Quran. This is a young boy crying because his friends want him to come play. We have grown men that spend hours upon hours playing video games every day, or watching movies, or whatever, any stuff Allah you can think of. Allahumma musta'an, may Allah forgive us. Right? This is a young boy. He was crying because he feared to be pulled away from seeking knowledge. He didn't go any day before. He would only eat once a day sometimes, and he wouldn't eat from the certain fruits because there was a doubtfulness in it, because it might have had some interest or riba or usury used in it. So he only limited himself to one meal a day in general, right? He only slept when sleep overtook him, and he would sleep sitting up. And sometimes they say an hour or less, and then he'd go back to studying or teaching. He took 12 classes a day when he was studying. 12 classes a day, that's say 12 hours a day. For each class, at least takes 1 hour to review or to study or to prepare for it, and then to go back and do the same. So look how much time he was spending on studying. And he was already imam. He already memorized the Quran. He memorized so many hadith, so many books of fiqh. Yet he was spending all this time studying. But look at the barakah Allah gave to him. To this day we benefit from his works. Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah. Everybody knows the most authentic book after the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Sahih al-Bukhari, right? Why is that? Look at the taqwa, the purification of the hearts that they had. For every single hadith he would put in his book, he would pray 2 rak'ats before writing down the hadith in the book. And he memorized 600,000 hadith. Okay? He chose from those 6,000 approximately, or 5 something without repetition. 600,000 means the chains of narrations, just so you know, it's not 600,000 hadith, there's not that many hadith. It's just when each hadith, if you have a different narrator, it's considered a separate hadith, even though it's the same one. So the text might be the same. So say 10 Sahaba heard that hadith, that's 10 different hadith. And then maybe those 10 Sahaba taught 10 other students each, so that's 100 different narrations right there from one hadith. So that's why you find sometimes, you'll see some Imam Ahmad or Imam Bukhari or Imam Al-Razi, or some of them memorize 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 100,000 or 500,000 hadith. It's because of the riwayah. But anyway, the point is, compiling this great work, he prayed 2 rak'ats for every single hadith he put in there, from taqwa, from having the purity of heart, and look what Allah gave him. And I can go on and on about the great scholars, but inshallah, may Allah help us and have mercy upon us and guide us to leave the sins and purify our hearts, purify this container, and try inshallah to increase our knowledge and understanding of the deen and implementation of it. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. If you have any questions or comments, tafaddal al-an.
No, my question was, Imam Bukhari is from Uzbekistan, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Because a lot of Uzbek students that I've met, they didn't know that. They thought he was Arab.
No, actually, 5 of the 6 main narrators of the books of hadith were non-Arab. So Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Imam al-Tirmidhi, Imam Abu Dawood, and Imam Ibn Majah were all non-Arab. Imam Nasa'i, I think, was the one that was Arab from the 6 most authentic books, right? Also, Imam Sibawayh and Farahabi were Iranians. They were the greatest grammaticians of the Arabic language. So there's no excuse for non-Arabs to say that, oh, it's like an Arab thing. No. Allah says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Allah has made the Qur'an, the book, easy for learning and remembering and understanding. Is there someone who will take heed? Is there someone that will understand? So anybody can learn this book, anybody can learn this language.
I just wanted to add something. A lot of sheikhs, when they talk about this part of seeking knowledge, they use the analogy where the vessel or your container, you can compare it to a glass, and before you fill it, a dirty glass, and then when you fill water into it, the water is dirty and you're not going to drink it. Whereas before you put the water in it, you have to clean it out and then fill it with water, and then you'll drink it, and then you benefit from it then.
Yeah, that's a beautiful analogy that she said some of the scholars, they mentioned to make this point clear about the container being pure, is that if you have a dirty glass and you put water into it, the water will become dirty itself, be convoluted or corrupted. Just like if you have a corrupted heart, may Allah protect us from that, and knowledge, it can be corrupted knowledge, right? It distorts it and corrupts it. But if you want to have pure knowledge, you clean that glass, you clean it, and then you put the water in so you don't have any dirtiness in it. And that's how we try to purify our hearts.
Along the same lines, I would like to, that's a beautiful analogy. Another one I like is the friends you keep.
Yes, right. The hadith of the Prophet?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the sister is reminding us of the hadith the Prophet said that the good friends and the bad friends are like the example of the perfume seller and the blacksmith. So the perfume seller, if you go into their store, you'll end up either smelling something nice or coming out smelling nice yourself, right? And the blacksmith, you're either going to smell something bad or get dirty or see the dirty sights, or get the smoke on yourself and the dirt on yourself. And that's like the good companions and the bad companions. If you're with good companions, they'll encourage you to worship Allah, to do good, to stay away from evil. They'll remind you if you're making mistakes, try to help pull you up, be there for you. But if you're with bad ones, they'll take you away from the remembrance of Allah, take you away from the prayer, take you away from doing good, and encourage you to do evil. So it's very important in this journey of seeking knowledge to try to surround yourselves with good companionship. And there's been psychological studies that you are the sum of the 5 closest people to you. So be very careful who you hold close to you. Even the Prophet said, "Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi falyanzur ila man yukhalilu." That the person is upon the religion of his closest companions. So he should be careful who he takes as a close companion. So according to the psychological studies, if you're the sum of those 5 closest people, you want to have people that are successful, first and foremost in the deen, even in the dunya, right? People that encourage you, to help you, motivate you can learn from, you can benefit from. You don't want to hang around people that are excuse the expression, losers or evil ones, or people that just complain all the time, or negativity, or doing haram stuff in front of you, or trying to call you to the haram, right? You want someone who's going to bring you up always, in deen and dunya. So try to surround yourself with good companions. Any more questions? How can we know that the heart is clean or dirty, as Sister asked earlier too? What do you guys think?
like reflecting on your actions, your worship, your sincerity.
Okay, so reflecting upon your actions is a sign that inshallah your heart is clean or trying to become clean. Because the person whose heart is... I should edit that part, sorry, stuck with me. Okay. You should understand, like when you're reflecting upon your actions, that means that you're taking heed, like you do something wrong, it's like it bothers you. So the one that's heart is sealed or corrupted, they start getting to the point where the sins don't bother them anymore. When they see haram, when they do haram, it's not bothering anymore. So that's a sign that the heart might be corrupted. Right? Another sign is worship upon worship. So if you're doing a good deed, and like you build upon it, you do more good deeds, that's a good sign that your heart is clean or getting clean. You're getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's giving you the opportunity to do more good. Decreasing in actions after a good, apparently good act means that maybe your intentions weren't as pure, or maybe you need to go back and check yourself more. Because usually when you have good deed, it should spring more good deeds. That's a sign of a lively heart, a good heart. Taking heed of the ayat of the Quran, it affects your heart. You get moved when you read the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get moved when you see the Muslim ummah, what they're going through, or your brother or sister suffering, that should affect you. All these things are signs of lively heart. And if you go back to one of the earlier lessons we did in the book, I went through a bunch of them, inshallah, that shows, signs that the heart is pure, or the signs of the heart that are corrupt. And I know it's best.
How can we purify our heart? What are some practical ways to purify a person's heart?
So some of the practical ways to purify the heart, first and foremost is, like making sure your intention is pure for the sake of Allah in any action you do. That'll actually be the next chapter. Reading the book of Allah. When you read Allah's words, it's a shifa, it's a healing. It cures what's in your heart, it cures what's in your sudur. Right? Sadr we took today also, guys, remember? Sadr, chest, it's inside your heart. Reading the Quran can purify that. Understanding the Quran. Reading the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and his seerah, how he lived, how he acted. All these are ways to help us purify our heart. Remembering death often. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ukthiru min dhikri hadin al-laddat." Increase the remembrance of the destroyer of the pleasures. The destroyer of the pleasures is what? Death. It comes to every single soul. No matter how much a person may deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they cannot deny death. Right? So as a mu'min, believers, remembering that will help us get closer to Allah. If I'm about to pray, and I think this might be my last salah, and I might die after this salah, right? It's going to make your prayer have that much more khushu'. If you're about to do a sin, say, what if Allah takes my soul right now? Right? If you're feeling lazy and doing worship, what if I die and I had the opportunity to pray, and I didn't pray, I ignored it, I put it off for no reason. Right? So these remembering death also helps to increase us, inshallah, in taqwa and purify the heart. And there's others, but this is like some of them, inshallah, and hopefully it was beneficial.
I was just going to make a comment that I think the younger you are, it's hard to think about death because younger people don't think about death. So what are some other ways they can get there? I don't know.
So the first four things I mentioned before, inshallah.
Also like disconnect
And also,
from dunya, right?
yeah, and then also like don't be fooled because death doesn't discriminate between young and old. Like I've seen in my lifetime, yeah, I've seen personally like in my high school, in my life, young people, be killed or pass away. That I've known. My cousin was 16. He was like considered a childhood genius, rahimahullah, and he got killed in a car accident. Never expected it. And we pray janazah all the time for people that are young and die. So death, don't ever be fooled by that. Like I'm gonna live such and such time. We tend to forget it because it's not in front of us. And remember when we go to that janazah, we see it happen. But that's why the Prophet said, think about it often, remind yourselves, because it'll keep you more on point. But the reading of the Quran and the reading of the seerah and hanging around the righteous, the good people, attending lectures, all these type of things, inshallah, are ways. Because when you attend these jalsat, these sittings, you have angels with you. You know, so it's like you're feeling that iman, you're feeling your heart getting pure. It's like a blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends upon us. Right. Opening His book. And the sister mentioned this is an important thing too. Turning off distractions. Like cutting off from the internet, from the phone. Like this phone is, subhanAllah, like big ibtila. Like it's almost, like anywhere you go now, you'll see people looking at the phone. You know, and I do it sometimes myself, unfortunately. I'm answering messages or trying to communicate. But even so, it's not good sometimes because you might be with your family. You know, those are the closest people to you in the world, basically. And you're sometimes just occupied by this. You know, your family might be trying to talk to you something important, or whatever. And you're just like looking at the phone. You go around, even in restaurants, families sitting together, they're all looking at their phones at the same table. Even I've heard to the point some people now are like texting each other in the same house. One's upstairs, one's downstairs, this time. So, anyways, the point is try to disconnect sometime and have just that time with you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and purifying the heart, remembering Allah. Go out in nature, reflect, see the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do things with their family, with their brothers, with their sisters, some type of activities. Study your Arabic, learn your Arabic language. Reading the Quran, we said, the Seerah, the Sunnah, the books of fiqh. Learn the basics of your deen for sure. Allah knows best. Okay, anything? Questions or comments?
I'm gonna have like 101 questions after I watch the video.
That's just inshallah. No problem. Jazakallah khair. That's good.
And I think sometimes everybody's at different levels. I could see sometimes when we're praying, some of the young people have their phones open in front of them, but then you think, well, there's some young people that are not here praying.
Yeah.
And there are some people that are here. So I think it's just levels of trying.
Yeah,
as long as you keep trying.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Never give up, never lose hope. Always strive. It's like Allah says it's a race. In many ayat, وَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ. Race to the forgiveness of your Lord. Race each other in good deeds. Compete with one another in good deeds. It's a continuous struggle. You just, don't give up. Even if you fall down, even if you make mistakes, that's fine. The Prophet ﷺ said that all the children of Adam sin or make mistakes. And the best of those are those who repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So the shaitan, one of his biggest tricks is to let a person lose hope. So he becomes worse and worse and doesn't think about, no. Always continue to come to the masjid, attend the lectures, do the good deeds, keep striving because you end, the ending is more important than the beginning. We all maybe have had issues, we all may have done stuff that's wrong, but how we end is what counts. When we face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you end upon goodness, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will count that. Right? So it's more important on how you end. So keep striving and never give up. And even if you do fall short, pick yourself up and try again. Right? And keep trying.
I wanted to just share a story today. About 4 o'clock, a young lady came into the masjid and she just shared her experience that she was trafficked and that she accepted Islam a year ago.
That she was what?
Trafficked.
Trafficked? She was trafficked herself? Oh, yeah.
And then so a person who assisted her to get out was with her, and she walked in after all that happened to her, and she said, "Can you teach me how to pray?"
MashaAllah.
So I think it's amazing stuff when you're here and the stories you hear. People come back, like she came back.
Even the story in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, how the prostitute or former prostitute, she saw a dog that was suffering from thirst after she had just drunk herself from the well. So she said, this dog is suffering from what I was suffering from. And she went back in the well and filled her shoe and came back and gave it to the dog. And Allah said that He forgave her sins for that action. So the pureness of the heart, the pureness of the intention of what you're doing, that action is very important. And then the man that killed 99 people, we know that story as well. So it's always a gift from Allah to make tawbah and keep striving. And sometimes people can actually come back from a sin better than they were before the sin, because they have such regret and such sorrow and such keenness on doing good to make up for it, that they go at higher levels than they ever could have achieved before doing that sin, which is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the main point, always strive and struggle and make sure that to guard the heart as best as you can, because that's the vessel that's where the shaitan tries to get the most, you know. And we as Muslims try and struggle the most to keep that pure. Like, Jazakumullah khair for coming out in this rain, mashallah. And may Allah reward your steps to the mosque and to the halaqah. And we ask Allah to increase us in knowledge and to accept from us our good deeds. Until Monday, or inshallah, see you guys. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.